Everybody, what's going on? Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a while since I've used this software. I have missed you, StreamYard. I have sincerely missed you. Okay, so obviously we've just been waiting for a while here to get the boys on. Jesse, Josh from Habs Digest. Let's throw up the logo here, boys, because I think it deserves a little bit of love here. We actually get to see the full picture of it. Habs Digest. You guys just passed 10,000 subscribers. So first off, let's just do a little cheers with a little Habs coffee mug, whatever you got over there. Throw it up for
Hydration.
10. Little hydration, little 10,000 subscriber celebration for Habs Digest. Well done, boys. Well done. Cheers.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just had to throw that out there first, you guys, because you guys exploded onto the scene here on YouTube. And whether or not you've heard of Digest Media or not, you guys have other teams that you cover and other sports. But it's clear that the branding, especially just the quality, your thumbnails are out of this world. I'll put up your latest thumbnail from last night, with Slavkovsky with the one hand, left-handed, like I don't even know what to call that pass, guys. Like
Neither do we.
just awesome stuff. So I think what we're going to do in terms of today's video and today's conversation, we're going to start with the Habs. So we're going to start with the boys. We got a little 3-day break here as to why we're kind of timing this the way that we did, so we can talk some Habs, have some filler on the days off that we can talk about that, and then also talk about your journey on YouTube. And I'm really curious about it. So we're going to get to that in a moment as well. And like I said, congrats again, you guys. Hats off for the job you've done so far.
Thank you very much, Drew. Really, really appreciate it.
So let's get into it. All right. So the Habs are now currently 7-17-5. They're actually, Josh and I just talked about before hitting record here, right about the same position as the Calgary Flames are in the West, and Josh, you were saying, like, if we knew this ahead of this season, that this is where we're going to be in January, we'd be pretty shocked. But that's where we are. And that's including with 5 injuries to 5 forwards specifically to this Canadiens group. And somehow they lose a stinker 6-1 to the Sabres, a team that's clawing to get back in the playoffs after 11, 12 years. And then they come out with a heroic victory, albeit Sam Montembeault being the hero against the first place Rangers last night. So this team's kind of weird, right? Like, how do you figure out who these guys are at this point, guys?
Well, I mean, like, look, the anytime we play the Sabres, it's the Jeff Skinner effect. I just kind of toss those games out the door. Jeff Skinner's going to dominate the Habs. It is what it is. But like me and Jesse have been talking about, and Jesse, like, I'll toss to you in a second on this, because like we just always say the Habs are able to play up to their competition. Like we talked about in yesterday's video, they beat a Winnipeg Jets team that's now first in the NHL. They go out and they beat the New York Rangers despite blowing a 3-0 lead. It's a team that has a lot of fight, and we saw that a lot last year. But now with some of the development to the young guys, it's like I just feel like every single game they have a chance, and a lot of that comes from the coaching. A lot of that comes from the players believing in themselves and playing for each other as opposed to just playing for themselves. And I know, Jesse, we kind of talked a lot about that, but I really think that's a big part of why the Habs are able to have this kind of success.
I think it's also Martin St. Louis. Like, I don't think he's getting enough credit for what he's doing, because you're right, Drew, and what you're bringing up. Like, we have so many injuries right now. We're such a young team, one of the youngest decors, but, as of late, the highest scoring offensive decor in the league. But if you kind of think about some of those things, right? If you're having a decor that's scoring, you're having a goalie that's playing pretty decent, you're having a first line that's now starting to come together, that has the making of some good things. And I don't see that trailing off really as the season goes. Like, I just see that keep getting better, because we finally have a first line. You have to feel like they're just going to keep playing better together as the season goes on. That's one of the most exciting things to see, is just how is Caulfield going to play? How is Suzuki? How is Slav going to continue their development kind of going forward right now? So, I mean, it's really amazing to see. But, harkening back to last year, like, we were an okay team when we had like players like Monahan in the lineup. But we saw once we lost him last year, our play just went off of a hill, right? And I know we're going to talk about like some deadline stuff later. That's why I feel like having a player like this is just so important, kind of having those stabilizing effect, because that's a player that contributes to this winning hockey so much, right? Like winning draws, good defensive play. When you have these type of players, like, it is surprising, but I can see the logic of why we are winning right now, or at least staying in that race, which I feel like we're probably going to be into right to the very end.
You have to think so. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know what to expect. I guess that's where I'm at. Like, every game is kind of a bit of a toss-up, right? It's like, okay, they're coming back from a road trip. They're playing Buffalo. It's the first home game in a while. They're happy to be home. They're comfortable. Are they too comfortable? I don't know. But the point is, they obviously don't put up the effort that you would expect, hopefully, against a Buffalo team that we had pretty good success against this season in Buffalo. It's one of Brendan Gallagher's favorite rinks to play, and I can assure you that. I've been to a lot of games in Buffalo, and like it's just like death taxes and a Brendan Gallagher goal at the KeyBank Center in Buffalo. Like it's one of those things you come to expect. And then Jeff Skinner, the killer himself, right? Like always going to put up a couple of points or more, 2 to 4 points minimum every game, whether it's home or away. But it does seem like guys like Monahan, like you mentioned, definitely, and him staying healthy right now, by the way, like one of the guys to avoid the injury bug so far, hands folded for that to stay the way that it is. So what do you make of, maybe just to throw it out really quickly, right off the cuff here, just, guys like Monahan, David Savard, Jake Allen, are those the most obvious pieces of trade bait at this point, going into the next couple months here?
I mean, I think they have to be. I think Monahan is the guy who is probably going to get the most value again if he stays healthy, right? He's a big question mark when it comes to the offseason, of course, because he's going to be an expiring contract. And I feel like there are going to be teams who are willing to offer him some money for maybe some security. Maybe he wants a longer term deal because of his injury history, all this kind of stuff. And I think it also depends on whether Habs management are willing to re-sign him come the offseason, because if Monahan is really loving Montreal, right? He's been playing so amazing on the draws. Like, you put him out there in overtime, he wins the draw, he goes to the bench, and he's on the power play, all this stuff. He's such a positive influence on this team, not only on the ice, but in the locker room. And if the Habs are willing to give him a bit of security, and maybe if he's willing to take a little bit less money than maybe another team would be willing to offer him, I think maybe you can consider, re-signing him for an extension. I know, Jesse, you like that idea. I'm more of the mindset, like, he's healthy right now. He could be a middle six player for any team, whether it's wing or center, any playoff contending team. And I think teams would be willing to spend for him, especially like you're just getting him for a couple months. I'm sure he can stay healthy through that, especially if there's a big playoff push. Other than that, I think Allen is the odd man out. I mean, would it shock me if Primo got traded? No, but I think I'd be much more surprised than if it was Jake Allen. And as for Savard as well, I've also heard Matheson's name being thrown around there. I don't think that that's a good idea. Like, I just don't really see, like we've talked about, me and Jesse especially, like when you're aiming to get into your contention window, you don't want to have, like, having a bunch of young guys, having only young guys who all end up getting good at the same time. That'll strap you for cash as well. You got to have some veterans here. You got to have a nice balance. I think Matheson is at least part of the team's future, at least till the end of his contract or around there. I don't think he should be moved. But I mean, yeah, for me, it's Allen, Monahan, and Savard. There are definitely some other guys you can maybe look at. Maybe with Armia's recent good play, a team might bite on him for a mid-round draft pick, something like that. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think those are definitely the guys Hughes is looking to move.
And if it is, I'm not trading Monahan for anything other than a top 10 pick. No, I'm just
Let's do it.
First, if you're Ken Hughes, you got to be taking calls. You got to see what's kind of out there, But again, somebody that adds, so much value, right? Where we want these young guys to kind of come in, but you do kind of want some of those vets, especially the ones that really contribute to winning hockey games. Because it's such a great question, right? Like right now, do we want to be, kind of having a fire sale, or do we kind of want to hold on? Like, these are some very important development questions that Kent Hughes will have to make. And there's solid arguments to be made either way. I think obviously the team, as always, by their play is going to dictate what's going to happen. But it's like, do we want to kind of make sure that we're getting rid of some guys to make sure we have a good draft pick? To there, I would say it's important, to value, a winning culture. We see teams like the Buffalo Sabres, the Ottawa Senators, they would kill to be in the Montreal Canadiens position just right now. I know we lost to them the other night, but even against the Sabres, we started that game off well, kind of went off the rails there a little bit, but there still was some really good signs. So it's just like that culture, right? Like getting that experience in the playoff is really good, but obviously getting a good draft pick, is so important as well. So that's going to be really hard, but I mean, the team's going to decide it by their play. I think Kent Hughes has showed us that if they're going to play well and show that they deserve it, then, he's going to do everything to support them while keeping in the long-term plan. So I don't see anything kind of drastic, but I definitely see Kent Hughes encouraging this team if they give him the reason to do so.
And that's what I'm kind of valuing too, right? Is the whole winning culture, because that's why I'm just not on Team Tank this season. Like, I know that it's still not likely that we expect to make the playoffs, and I really don't expect to make the playoffs. I do expect progress, and I I was starting to teeter on, okay, maybe it's just time to tank. I mean, this team is not going anywhere. And then they just start showing up and still keep winning games, So it's kind of like, well, you're in I wouldn't say they're in no man's land. I don't think they are, because you can't buy a winning culture, right? You have to create it and then execute it, right? So now they're executing it slowly because they're still losing games. They're 500 team right now with all the injuries that we have to Doc, to Newhook, to Pearson, to Raphael Harvey-Pinard, to Dvorak. So it's like, I just think that I love the way Marty is handling the fact that, nobody cares about the injuries to the Canadiens except for the Canadiens. And they're showing, at least on a nightly basis, look at guys like Yoel Armia. I mean, like, the guy's a fourth line guy. People a week and a half ago were saying send him back to Laval, get him out of here. We're tired of him, and all of a sudden he starts lighting it up. And like, when he's playing well, you love to watch it, but when he's not, you love to hammer him, right? So it's like, that's why I'm having a hard time figuring out who these guys are.
I saw one person say Yoel Armia with Brendan Gallagher's heart is an 80-point player, and part of me kind of agrees with that.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
Yoel Armia's skill with Brendan Gallagher's heart and drive is an 80-point player.
Okay,
it kind of makes sense sometimes, right?
That's a good analogy, though, because you saw Galley's goal last night, and just getting the Bell Center going, and it was a bit of a playoff atmosphere, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
So you see the effort. Even Marty was saying yesterday how Gallagher's game isn't reflecting the stat sheet, right? Like, he's still been playing good hockey despite not producing very much. So that's a pretty good way to look at it too. And then he gets rewarded, bar down in the first period. So I said in my video last night, how the Canadiens had a playoff-esque performance, and mind you, they had the 3-0 lead, like Josh said earlier, and they blew it, but it didn't feel like it was going to get away from them. Maybe I don't know. I just feel like it was a playoff performance against a top-tier playoff team. It's just not consistent enough, right? So what do you guys make of that in terms of, like, we've been mentioning, the theme of the show is the inconsistency of the team so far?
I mean, like, realistically, yeah, they blew a 3-0 lead, but just in that third period, the Habs ranked how many posts? Like 4?
Yeah,
and
the posts were
there
nuts.
were countless scoring chances. That one where Slav had that incredible deke and got in all alone. He was also robbed by Jonathan Quick with a sliding glove save. There was a post for, like, a Suzuki one-timer that got saved. There was a post from Matheson, a post from Evans, like, all
Cocktail
over the place.
The net.
Yeah, exactly. And Suzuki just missing that backhand tip. There was so many times where the Habs could have jumped back out to the lead. And yes, they got brutally outshot, but I don't think the scoring chances were that different. In fact, I think especially late in that game, the Habs had more. And it's just one of those games where not everything's going to go in, right? It's like these skilled guys are making skilled plays, just getting a little unlucky. And so, I mean, like we've said, the effort is always there when they're able to play up to their competition. I think it's a really good sign. And like we've said already, I just think the effort that Marty St. Louis has these guys playing with, and it's not there every game, but I think a lot of that has to do with the youth. And I think, guys getting in their own heads as well, especially like young guys. Like, so many guys are under 25. And I mean, it's so easy to get in your own head, especially playing at the highest level of hockey in one of the toughest, media markets in the world to play in. So it's tough, but they keep bouncing back despite the consistency not being there every single night. I think the fact that such a young team is able to kind of contain themselves and, like, in a game where you blow a 3-0 lead, to still win that game against a top tier team in the East, so many teams would collapse under that pressure of blowing that lead. I just think, like, the mentality of this team is really, really improving every single day.
I want to put this to Jesse. Oh, go ahead. You had something. Go ahead.
Oh, just that. All about the response. Please go ahead, Drew.
No, I was just going to say to you, Jesse, do you wonder if they're just able to turn up that gear and just, because it seems like consistent to me, maybe with the exception of LA, that they do seem to be able to show up against the top tier level teams. We've seen it against Winnipeg, was kind of so earlier this season. Now they're really hot. And the Rangers, they played well against Boston in one game at home on Saturday. So do you think it's just a matter of being able to turn up the dial on Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada at the Bell Center? Like, what is it that they're able to do to perform against these top tier teams? Vegas, they played really good against Vegas earlier this season. So what do you think that is?
It shows that this team has a high ceiling. And I feel like the bigger, larger issue is this, not so much the opponents, but really just that full hockey game. Because we've seen for a lot of times, like, okay, they'll play a good 2 periods, but not really kind of that that 3 solid periods that you really take to win. And you could say that was even the case for the Rangers in a lot of ways last night, where it's like we played probably a good 2 out of 3. But again, if we're playing those 3, then we're really having that big victory, right? But as you guys are saying, like, our response, that's what it's all about. Like, the character, they could have just froze, when it gets 3-2, but in that third period, they kept fighting. And that's what I felt a lot for tonight, is that, like, and just this past year, is not feeling out of games, even when they get behind, because what I find is so encouraging about this team is they have a good system of play, even when they're not really executing the best. It's more kind of chalked up to experience of not being able to do that all the game long. But we're starting to see that they really have a system of play. And that's why I bring it back to Martin St. Louis. I think he's the one responsible with so many injuries, with such a young team, to have a fairly consistent, kind of level of play for the most part. You can tell a lot of times, especially of late, what I like to see is, they're coming to play right from the beginning. Okay, we're skating with intention. I mean, like, that's huge. And I would argue that that's the reason why the Habs are having some success right now, is they got a little bit more characters than some other teams. They don't have quite that skill, but they have more character, which is huge. But of course, what also helps is the depth that we have is now producing better performances out of, like, a Joel Armia, as we were speaking earlier. Like, you could argue he needed, like, that competition to bring it out, because we all know the skill's been there. He just needed to kind of, risk losing his NHL career, get down to AHL, a little bit of a wake-up call. Okay, I have the skills. Let's put it together. I mean, the same thing you could argue with, like, Jaden Struble. It's like the reason why we're still able to be competitive this point in the season, I think we'll be battling the end, is we're having prospects. Our depth is kind of bringing out that best of competition, with so many players. We're seeing the legend of the turtleneck continue right now with Jaden Struble taking the torch, from Thomas Plekanec.
Shout out Plecky, 100%. I love it. Yeah. Well, it's so true with Stroobs, eh? Like, when he needs to, he'll play with some toughness, he'll play with some meanness, but he does seem to just have his head up all the time and just making the right play, making the right passes. He can play physical. Him and Jordan Harris, like the Northeastern connection, right? Mm-hmm. They've been playing pretty good together. For 2 young guys to be able to handle the minutes that they're getting, pretty impressive.
Yeah, Struble played 20 plus minutes. I think he played more than Gouli in the last game. And like you said, Jesse, the competition right now for these last few Habs defenseman spots, like, we talk so much about Arbor Jacki, especially over on our channel, because I mean, we're huge Jacki fans. I think everyone is, right? Like, everyone loves Arbor Jacki, and there are many games this year where, like, man, I wish Jacki was there. Right. Especially when Slavkovsky took that hit to the head. It's like you wish it wasn't Caulfield that had to go in and try and fight, right? And apparently maybe now Lane Hudson, as the season comes over, this guy's clearly not afraid of anyone too big either. But you got Jacki, you got Harris, you still got Kovacevic around there, and you got even a guy like Gustav Lindstrom, and then you got Struble coming up, and you have Reinbacher next year, and Hudson, and Barron, there's so many guys.
Mayu too,
right? That he's been playing amazingly since he's been paired with Jacki. So it's like, this competition, it's fueling these guys. Like, they know, well, if I don't play well, I'm going to get sent down. And they're trying to prove to Habs management, like, hey, you can't send me down. And Struble played more than Gouli. Like, this is exactly kind of what we wanted. Having this depth is not just to replace when someone's injured. It's also to motivate the other guys around you. Like, this might be your last shot here, right? Like, you better make the most of it. And I think it's really breeding some success.
It sure seems to be. And as it stands right now, Habs are still 5 points out of a wild card spot. There's games in hand against the Canadiens from other teams. By the time Wednesday hits, I mean, they're going to be more than 5 points out of a wild card spot, most likely. But just the fact that we're talking here on January the 7th, and they're 5 points out is pretty amazing. And we're not expecting playoffs, but it's just encouraging that this team mentality, this team mindset, that whole speech Marty gave when he first came into the locker room and everyone's hair was standing out, they got goosebumps and everything, it's like you get that whenever needed from him, like just that pep talk, and it's passion and desire for me. I think that's what you're, along with the character. The character is coming from a passion and desire to play for Marty St. Louis, to play for each other and the logo. So it's encouraging. I want to pose this to you guys. I think it's pretty obvious, but last night, and I probably could have mentioned this right away earlier in the video, but I think it's official that Sam Montembeault has arrived, right, boys, or what?
Honestly, I'm blown away, impressed with Samuel Montembeault. He's made me a believer, right? And I think rightfully so. You have to kind of earn that trust. But right now, he's just really doing everything. And I'd love to see him getting a little bit more game time, kind of getting in there. And again, like seeing like that fight and that competitive from him, because he just seems like the nicest, kind of like chillest guy in the world. But to see, he has that fire, that determination that you kind of need to be that real number one in the NHL, as a goalie, which is, so competitive, right? There's so few goalie spots out there. For him to get a number one spot, like what a story, coming here from waivers, kind of, okay, becoming that 1B, taking that 1A spot, getting rewarded, with that contract extension. He's really looking like a guy of the future. And I think for such a young team, how he can just be so kind of calm and kind of even keel, and for the most part that we can know what to expect from him. It's really amazing. Like, he made some unreal saves last night. Like, it's absolutely incredible what Samuel Montembeault is doing right now.
It's and I think it's a good combination of calmness, but also fire. Like, we saw him, like the celebration after he made that save in the shootout on Zibanejad and then won the game on the next save. Like, we see him so calm all the time, so focused. He loves his snacks, right? He's just the best guy. But then he goes out there and he makes 46 saves on 49 shots. And he goes out there and has some amazing saves in the shootout and basically wins Montreal the game. I mean, he did. But you hear a lot of the time, the guys get signed to their contract and they're chilling. Hey, you play well in your contract here, you get signed to the extension, and then you chill, and the production goes down. It's a story as old as time, right? You hear it all the time across every sport. But Samuel Montembeault, like, we're arguably seeing more fire than ever for this guy, for a team that's 500, winning a game against the New York Rangers in early January in a season where they're maybe sort of fighting for a playoff spot. A guy who just signed a 3-year contract extension, like obviously the most money he's ever made in his career, to still come out every night and be as focused as he is, and to have that drive and that fire inside of him to win these games and celebrate as hard as he did, like, you don't get that very often. I mean, this guy's clearly a hockey fan through and through. He has a passion for this game. He has a passion for Montreal. And I mean, like, what else could you ask for from your goalie, right?
I think it's fair. I mean, you don't see guys like him celebrate much. I mean, I remember like early in Carey Price's career, we would see him like do a few poses and this and that. And like, that was like a character for him. And it was like, just cool to see Sammy just like, it was warranted. That celebration was warranted and welcome because he worked for it. He deserved it. Right. And he's been fighting for this kind of number one spot. And, Eric Engels kind of mentioning last night on sportsnet.ca, just like, okay, now it's time to give the guy more games and sit who you need to sit, shop who you need to shop. It's probably going to be Jake Allen.
Mm-hmm.
If it means that we don't get much better than a 4th, 5th, 6th rounder for Jake, then that's how it's going to be. But it's clear that I think Primo's going to get more starts this week, and then Sammy as well. And then we'll kind of see how they handle Jake, but they're going to have to get that deal done soon, it seems like to me, in my opinion. So pause there. And now I want to transition with you guys to Habs Digest, the brand itself. And I'm going to pull up the logo again because I just think it's awesome. It's got the old Olympic Stadium in here. It's got the hockey puck, the lights, the colors, Montreal city background. It's wicked stuff, guys. So I just want to know from your guys' side how it's been jumping onto the YouTube world here and starting this Habs podcast or channel, I guess we could call it, whatever you want to call it. I call it both sometimes, but how have you guys enjoyed the experience, and what surprised you? What's it been like this last, 15 months? It's only been 15 months, guys.
That's it. Jesse, I think I'll let you start this one. I just spoke a lot, so
Definitely. Honestly, Drew, thanks so much for having us on. And it's been an amazing ride, and much of it in great due to people like yourself. Like, one of the things I didn't realize about doing, a YouTube channel is how much community is involved. That you got people that are there that, you speak to every day, that you're doing the lives, that you're chatting with, that there's really like a big community. And it's just so nice to speak sports with other people, because the amount of takes that you can get when you're getting other people's opinions. I mean, if you want to refine yourself as a lover and a fan of the game, there's no better way than when you can really get so much input. You can check a comment section, and really, we're just kind of blown away by just the positivity. It's kind of, I've always been a fan of the Habs for so long, and it's just been kind of a way to just kind of pay that forward as well, and just kind of take that love and kind of take it a step further, and just kind of making you a little bit more invested in the game, a team that we already love and care for. So of course, if you love the Habs and you're doing something that's making you even more invested, that's making it even funner and everything like that, of course, it's a huge blessing. So, I've been really thankful for all of it. It's just been such an amazing opportunity, really just to connect with so many people.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, right? Like, I mean, this idea, of course, a shout out to Ben Rogers, host of Raptors Digest, the guy who started all this, right? He's just kind of saying, like, I play basketball with him, right? And it's like, hey, look, you guys you guys looking for other channels? I can do Montreal Canadiens. And at that point, I really hadn't been following hockey too much. It was actually, I kind of took a bit of a break from watching hockey kind of around 2015-ish. Just after that, Carey Price injury, all this stuff. And it was actually my other team, the Minnesota Wild, that kind of got me back into hockey with Kirill Kaprizov. And then I decided to start following the Habs again. So it's a bit of an interesting story. Habs have always been my number one team since I was a kid, right? Michael Ryder, Newfoundlander, is what it is, right? He was the guy that got me into hockey. But yeah, let's try it. And of course, we had our own strategy. We had some good thumbnails, some good infrastructure already in place. And what did it take us, like 3 weeks to get monetized? Something like that. Like 1,000 subscribers in the first 3 weeks or something. We're like, oh, well, this is kind of crazy. Like, people like watching us speak. And if you go back and watch the early videos, the difference between then and now is crazy. Like, but it's just been a journey, right? You listen to feedback from the people, you listen to feedback from your friends, whoever's watching. But most importantly, like, just doing this every day, you get more comfortable in front of a camera. And like Jesse said, you feel the power of that community, and you see these people and they just motivate you to keep going. And, we have regulars now. I mean, shout out to George if you're watching this, like there's many other guys like Tony, and there's so many other wonderful people who are there in the comment section. And the one thing that I think has really, I wouldn't say helped us keep going, because the motivation to make videos every day is still there, because we genuinely enjoy making these videos together. I love making a video every day with Jesse, right? And it's fun to just be part of the team, but to see the interaction from these people and what they say to us, these kind things, saying, we've changed their perspective on life, and like, oh, they used to watch with their brother that passed or something like that. It's like, well, really? Like we are filling these voids for people. We're making their lives better. And that kind of thing is like, it's almost incomprehensible to think about, like we do these videos every day. Like, I'm a bit more laid back now. Of course, we have a bit of more personality in the videos and super excited, big eyes, stuff like that. But right now it's like, just that kind of stuff is it's just so like touching, really, to hear, to know that we can have that kind of effect on people. And we just genuinely love talking about the Habs. We've gotten to a groove. We know how to make our videos, like you said, thumbnails, stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know. I kind of just don't even know how we got to 10,000 in 15 months. It just seems like, again, like Jesse said, the community rallied around us. And I guess we just kind of took advantage and kept giving them what they want to see.
Well, it's clear you have, because here you guys are, right? And I think that it's undervalued, or I don't know if it's undervalued, but you guys are going every day. And like, I was going every day for a while too there. And then I like had to take my mental breaks here and there and stuff like that. But which I hope you guys do, and I'm sure you do when you can as well.
Of course.
But what were you, because you mentioned, I'm trying to think of what's been one of the challenges, like, as you guys grow, do you think the expectations increase and then you feel more obligated to kind of put more stuff out there, or are you kind of happy, like, oh, we're in more demand, we want to keep going? Like, what's the balance, how do you try to balance it?
It's a really good question, and again, I think, it's like, when people comment positive things, like, it is really appreciated, as Drew, right? Like, that positive feedback, that energy sometimes you get, it really helps a lot to just kind of keep going. But when you got a lot of people that are supporting you and saying nice things and saying thank you for the time and for the effort and that we appreciate, it's like, that's about all the thanks you need. Like, that helps us a lot. That recharges our batteries, and we're just ready to go, right? And I think, it's so important to also, keeping a level head and having fun, and kind of, as well, just doing the things that we love, and just that natural passion of the Habs, just letting that come across and just being real about it. I think a big thing for us, we decided early on, is like, we're not going to fake things. Like, we're going to say how we actually really feel. And I think that's important for fans, they can kind of tell that when they tell that, like, this is actually how I feel. We're not kind of putting on any sort of things. And I feel like that's important for fans. They deserve that, to get the honest takes, how we're really kind of, feeling about things. So to be honest, it's like, you always want to keep improving and you want to look for new ways. But I mean, there's just so much positive energy around this team as well right now that I feel helps so much. Like, when you're covering like players that you actually like, not only are they good players, but it seems like they're kind of like good people on and off the ice. Like, doesn't it make it easier, Drew, to kind of like follow a team like that and everything else? There's just so much good things. Like, we really started this channel right as that new rebuild was starting, a new page, a new chapter for the Montreal Canadiens. So I think we're so lucky in the fact that it's so serendipitous in that type of way. And there's just so much to be excited about when it comes to this young team right now.
It's timing is everything sometimes, right? Like, it's just, we started that show with Weiser at the beginning of COVID was still kind of taking its taking its way. It was like mid-season, and we just started, and all of a sudden they go on like a Stanley Cup playoff run and go to the finals, where there's like, what is going on right now? Like, so the timing is everything, right? But like you mentioned, the community, and that's what kind of has kept me coming back on my own channel is, I love people. Like I'm a people person, right? Like and that's why I can tell with you guys, like you guys are genuinely nice people. And sometimes success can go to people's heads, so I appreciate you guys for the sense that I don't get that sense from you guys, and that's why I wanted to get to know you guys, because you guys are genuine, you're authentic, you're real, and that's relatable, right? So every day people are showing up to watch you guys because they feel like they kind of know you a little bit, right? So how have you guys you guys must have made a point to stay humble with your success. That's what I'm kind of getting from you guys. Am I right here or what?
I mean, I don't necessarily think that we had to sit down and say, "Look, we got to make sure that we don't let the subscribers get to our head." Like, I don't think that was an intentional thing. I think it's just kind of our personalities, like, and I think that comes through in the video. Like the way we are in the video, the happiness, the positive energy. It's exactly what we say before and after the videos. Like we're just like oftentimes like, "Hey, man, really a pleasure doing these videos with you." Like it's just genuine energy and.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being real for a sec, like this is not my YouTube personality. This is just me. Like, yeah, I love doing this. Like it's just, I think it's just our nature. When we see this subscriber number go up, obviously we get excited, but it's it's not like we upload a video and I'm like, well, how many views? What's the revenue on this video? No, like we kind of look at it. We're like, awesome, people really enjoyed that video we put out, and that's kind of all we think about. Like I don't know. Like I think it's just the way we are. But on a note on how to like. Process that stuff. That's kind of a separate thing too, because I see that number 10,000, but it's like, it's almost hard to put that into perspective sometimes. And like I've said to Jesse before, sometimes like there was back in November, we had an incredible month. We were averaging over 10,000 views a video every single day. We had like 350,000 views in the month or something. And we post every day. And it was like, you look at that, we're like selling out a decent sized hockey stadium every single day, like a big theater, people coming in to watch. That's kind of how, and that's almost surreal. But I think that almost helps process it in a way because it's so incomprehensible, surreal to think that many people are sitting down to watch us. But at the same time, again, like when we record, I don't know. I mean, Jess, maybe you can speak to this a bit, but when we sit down, it's just like, and I think part of the reason that people might like it is just like we're just sitting down and having a chat about the Habs. Like that's all we're doing. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously we put on some more energy and we pick topics specifically, and we obviously sell it. A big thing's going to happen, whatever. But that's just the nature of what YouTube is and what content creation is. But at the end of the day, when we're just chatting about the Habs, and I think people find that relatable. And I mean, I just think it's part of the reason we've been so successful, and part of the reason it hasn't maybe got to our heads is because like every day we just kind of hop on a call, talk about the Habs for 10 minutes, and that's it.
Definitely. No, that's it. And just being thankful, I think like you said, Drew, it's just like at the end of the day, like just, that's it. Just being grateful, right? Because a lot of things, it doesn't need to be this way. But it really is. And like Josh is such an amazing person to work with and everything else like that.
Buddy.
So thanks. It makes those things really easy, just working with like a nice person, understanding person, intelligent person, and everything else like that, So, that's really it. Just at the end of the day, it's just kind of really being thankful. And isn't it nice just to kind of pay it forward, right? Because I know I go on YouTube to learn things. I'm on there, for a lot of things. So just kind of like being able to pay it forward almost to the collective. It's like I gain so much from being there, and just to kind of be able to do something where you feel like you're kind of adding some value to people's lives and in different ways. Like, I mean, it just feels great, right?
Yeah, like you said, adding value to people's lives. That's huge. Like you guys mentioned about, people going through a tough time and they turn you guys on and they just have some peace, just from that sort of relationship of watching you guys. And then people have said some really nice things to me also. And it kind of it does make you want to keep going and showing up for people just for that. Like regardless of what you're even talking about, it could be hockey, it could be football, it could be, a walk in the park. I don't know, whatever it is, you bring something to someone else's life and add value. And that's hard to put a dollar value on that. Yeah, the channels, we earn a bit of revenue and that's all positive and that's all cool. But ultimately you're adding value to people's lives. And it looks like we lost Jesse for a second. So I'll temporarily take him out of the stream here, and maybe we'll have to wrap things up. We'll hopefully get Jesse back on before we do that, Josh. But
sure.
But I do appreciate the fact that, like I said, you guys really seem to take your success in stride, and you also attribute so much of it to your viewers. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's been one thing that we have. Like, we said that from the beginning. Like, without the viewers, what are we? We're nothing. And we figured out what works, as in what works on YouTube, but also, like, I think people are scared, like, when they're starting YouTube, like, oh, the YouTube algorithm, it's so tough, whatever, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just a reflection of the people. And if we make content that people want to watch, and we see that people like these videos, we just learn from that and we keep going. But like we were just saying, Jesse, it's like the fans are everything. Like without them, we are nothing. Without them, this channel doesn't have 5 subscribers. Yeah, obviously there's a level where we still have to create good content, high quality content, where we're knowledgeable about the Montreal Canadiens. We present it in an exciting new way, giving people breaking news every single day. But I think attributing so much of our success to the fans helps keep people coming back, because they feel like they're a part of our success. And the thing is, they are probably the biggest part of our success. But that combined with, like, we make it a point as well to be positive in so many videos. Like, one thing that I've repeated before is, like, if you make a take, and you're really optimistic and you're really positive about something, I think this great thing is going to happen. And you guys might not agree, but I think it's going to happen. If that thing happens, then at the end of the day, people will come back to you and they'll be like, oh, wow, that was so awesome. You were so right. But how many times did you see it the other way, saying, no, I really think this terrible thing is going to happen. I think the Habs are going to finish bottom of the standings and have no development from the young guys. How many people are going to go back to you at the end of the day and say, oh my gosh, and praise you for being right? Like, I think positivity just plays such a big role too. And I think it helps that me and Jesse are just naturally positive people. And all that, I think, really, really helped us out.
I think that's what kind of pulled me towards you guys, because we started this whole trend, and I'm not saying we started. I'm not trying to say we started it, but we started this catchphrase, Habsitivity, right?
Habsitivity. That's right.
On Habs Tonight. Like, we just said, you know what? Like, even if the team is just dog, crap,
Yeah.
right? Like, just, and they went through that. We were covering them right from the time Bergevin got let go to Jeff Gorton getting hired, Kent Hughes getting hired. But we remained optimistic because we knew there was a plan in place, but it was also like, we didn't want to dump on guys. And I think Dale Weiss kind of taught us that, because, we were looking at doing the show, almost trying to treat the players like, what if they were our teammates? How would we treat them and talk to them when they're going through tough times, right? So I think that was the difference too, is just how we treat people in general, and not treating players like these far off, rich millionaires that aren't relatable, and you can just trash them because they got a lot of money and a lot of fame and success. Like, that's just, they're still people, right? And we're still people too. So guess what? We're still on the same playing field. They just have the stage and the bright lights, and we get to take it in and watch and talk about it. So for me, that was a game changer in terms of how we treated our content and people, right?
100% true, right? And Marty St. Louis shows that so clearly. We see where very little times on the bench where he's really getting upset, because he realizes the importance of kind of having a positive culture. A lot of these players, they're hard enough on themselves as it is, right? So I think there's something to be said about that. It's like, there is times where, for accountability, and Marty kind of will do that, but even that is done kind of loving way, right? But I think there's so much to be said when, like, you're working with people, or you're in any type of project, whether it be a team or anything, where you feel like you can have the space to make mistakes without feeling like somebody's going to kind of come down on you and everything. Because, I mean, we all do it, right? We all have our different strengths. We all have our different weaknesses. It's all about kind of being understanding, supporting each other through that. And I think by doing that, you can really accomplish some pretty amazing things.
I have to agree. Well, I'm going to put it up again for you guys, because I love the logo. I just think it's really sharp. So it blows my ugly face away. No,
oh, come on.
Yeah,
don't be so harsh on yourself.
I shouldn't be so hard on myself. I know, but thank you guys for coming on and having me on again recently as well. It was a lot of fun, and this was a lot of fun. So I just want to say thank you guys for doing what you do, the way that you do it, and the success, like you said. We attribute it, just in general, as Habs creators, whatever, to our viewers and our supporters and subscribers, members, whatever it is. And we have an exciting team to watch. We have this team coming together and meeting all the fans, online. It's a gift. The internet is a gift in this way of just getting to meet each other and talk about that shared passion of covering this team. So it's been great, and getting to meet you guys has also been great. So I just want to thank you both for everything that you're doing, and the kindness you've shown me, as well and inviting me on to your channel. So I thank you guys tremendously for that.
Well, thank you, Drew. I mean, again, it's always nice to meet other people in the Habs space, and again, you've been so kind and welcoming to us as well. And again, like we've said, without people like you on your own channel, Drew Deeks, or whether it was Habs Tonight or whoever else. I mean, shout out to Matt Hockey Junkie, right? There's so many other creators out there that have paved the way. Scotian Canadian. I mean, he stopped just before we started posting, and these people that I watched right all the way through, and it's really served as an inspiration. I think just taking some of that positivity, taking some of that just Habs passion and sharing it with the people is just something we love to do. So again, thank you again very much.
My pleasure, guys. Well, yeah, it's been a blast. So I've learned a lot from you guys already, and I'm still gonna learn more. I'll have to get your insights on those wicked thumbnails because they're so good, man. Like those, they're so good. I'm just like, how do you know? That's what you call must click TV right there, or what do you
That's
call
what
it?
we aim for,
right? Like it works, man. It really works. It's beautiful. The graphics are wicked. They're clear. They're crystal clear. They're awesome. So. We were fortunate to have that on Habs Tonight, so I'm missing that from my friend Anik from the show. But anyway, regardless of all the stuff that brings everything together to achieve success, at the end of the day, we're Habs fans, and we get to enjoy the journey of this team getting back to hopefully the promised land in a few years here, and just getting to a point where every season is going to be like we're going to be talking about playoff runs season to season, and I look forward to that so much. So, thank you guys once again for everything, and can't wait to have you guys back on sometime.
Thank you so much, Drew. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Drew.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys again. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.